Okay, well, welcome everyone. It is 11 a.m. here in Central USA time, so we're going to get started. Welcome to the Jira for All Teams webinar from Valiantys. As my colleague Brianna mentioned, my name is Jason Kidner. I'm going to be your tour guide for the next hour with talking about Jira for All Teams. And the focus of this webinar is really on real-life use cases of how non-IT teams have used Jira and other Atlassian products to work in better ways. So that's kind of the focus of here. It's not just going to be on Jira, but it's really a focus on how any team out there, business, IT, you name it, any team can use Jira and other Atlassian products to work well. And yeah, my name is Jason Kidner. I'm an engagement director here at Valiantys, also an Atlassian certified professional. And I've used all these tools myself and worked with them in many different clients over the past 6 years. So I'm looking forward to sharing about them with you. And I'm also joined by my colleague, Brianna. She's going to be monitoring the Q&A area of this Zoom meeting, and she's going to be posting some helpful links into the chat. And I believe there's also a resource tab that she's also going to be posting some links and information in as well. So if you do have any questions, please put them in the Q&A area of the Zoom call, and I will do my best to look at them. There'll be some time at the end that I'll look at them, and I'll do my best to answer them as well. So great. So we're going to get started here. We have a pretty simple agenda. I'm going to go over some introductory thoughts about working in better ways and about Atlassian products. And then the bulk of this webinar is going to be in 5 real-life examples that I'll show shortly, and which are going to involve demoing tools and just talking about some real-life use cases that we've at Valiantys here have worked with different clients, different non-IT teams to help them use Atlassian products really well. And then finally, there'll be 5-ish, 10 minutes for questions at the end. So first off, just some thoughts here about better way to work. So again, despite its name, this webinar is not just about Jira. It's about these real life use cases that I've talked about, where we're going to show tools and processes that will hopefully help you and your teams work in a better way or think about working in a better way, no matter, again, what type of team you're on. So what are some of the ingredients to working in a better way? So I have them listed here. So they're making work visible, having clear next steps in processes, making work collaborative, using flexible tools that change as quickly as your environment changes, and then lastly, shifting mindsets from doing more work in less time to generating more value with less work. So that's you'll hear that, like, a value add. How can we be like what we're doing is valuable? And hopefully with all of these ingredients, you're going to see these play out in one, if not all, of the different use cases and how these are all helped achieved by the Atlassian products that we're going to show as well. And then again, before we get in any further, just want to highlight a couple things here about people, processes, and tools. This is really important because we deal with this whenever we're engaged with clients. And so I have them in this specific order, okay? Because all of these things are involved in your team, doing work and adding value to your team and your customers. So first off, you have your people, right? Your people are foundational to what you're doing, to what you're trying to accomplish. And then you have processes that hopefully are focused on value and collaboration and not just busy work. And then finally, you have your tools, and hopefully they're tools that are flexible, that can support both your processes and your people. So I have them in this order because tools, and I'm going to show you some really cool tools today. They're incredibly helpful, but they can't necessarily solve your people and your process problems, right? If somebody's just not showing up to meetings or whatever, your tools aren't going to necessarily solve that. If your processes aren't set up well and there's good governance around things, like your tools aren't necessarily going to be able to help with that either. So again, all 3 of these things are super, super important. And hopefully as you see these different use cases, you're going to get a sense of tools, how they can help with processes that are also going to show up in these use cases. And then ultimately help your people. So, all right, so let's shift gears. I've been talking a lot about tools, flexible tools. So that brings us to just a very brief kind of overview of Atlassian. Valiantys we're a platinum solution partner of Atlassian. And so we're very much an Atlassian first company. And here's just I think a really helpful picture of the Atlassian portfolio. This is really focused on what the Atlassian products in the cloud. You might also hear Atlassian talk about their system of work, where all of these different cloud products interconnect. So Atlassian products they're used by thousands and thousands of companies around the world. They're likely already being used in your own organization. And we often work with business teams who are ready to purchase or try out some of these Atlassian products, and then they're surprised to learn that their company already has them. And then from there, it's just a matter of their team needing to work with the Jira admins or whatever tool admins they are to customize the tools for their needs or to give them access to what they need to get started. And if you don't have them, Atlassian tools, especially the cloud products, are very inexpensive. You can set up free trials. You can use your credit card to pay for the licensing on a monthly basis to just get started. You don't often need to go through your VP of procurement to get going. So anyway, the cloud products are very easy to set up and start to use. So a couple of things about these tools. They're designed for teams to be collaborative, flexible, scalable. They're the main one that we're going to talk about today are the Jira products. So we have Jira and I think, yeah, Jira Service Management. We're going to touch on that. There used to be Jira Software and Jira Work Management, but Atlassian has combined those, bundled those together in what's just called Jira now. And I'll show you a couple different flavors within Jira of those projects types that will play out in some of these use cases. So you have Jira. This is, again, for your work tracking, your visualization, your planning, things like that. Jira Service Management is obviously set up for helping your customers have a portal to enter in requests, whether that be internal teams or external teams. And we'll talk about that in use case number 4. And then we have Confluence. Confluence is a collaborative wiki style tool, and that integrates very tightly with Jira. And we'll touch on Trello a little bit. There's one thing in Confluence, like some integration between Trello and Confluence that I'll show later on. Trello's again a work tracking tool. A lot of people like to use it for their personal life or just maybe a side thing from their Jira projects to help just keep up with some of their to-dos. So that's out there. And then we're not going to touch on these other ones. We have webinars that do focus on Jira Align, webinars that really get into Jira Service Management. I think we have webinars even starting up more to talk about AI and Rovo, things like that. So basically anything out here, any Atlassian product, Valiantys is an expert in, and we can certainly talk with you more about those and help you get going if you're interested. All right, well, let's move on then to the heart of our webinar, and that are these 5 use cases or 5 practical examples of how, any type of team can potentially work in a better way with Atlassian products. So the 5 examples we're going to cover are task management, project management, hiring and onboarding, service desks, and then finally centralized knowledge. And each of them is going to kind of start off with the who, what are the problems, what are the solutions at a high level, and then what are some potential tools to help with that solution. So here, the first one is task management. And who does this use case apply to? Well, really everyone, every type of team. Okay, everybody's doing some sort of work out there, no matter what it is, and there's some work, some tasks to manage. So the problems that we often come across are teams that aren't sure, what do we have to do? Like, what is the work? And is it prioritized well? Is everything up to date? And then who's taking care of that particular task? Who's assigned to that? Is it my responsibility? Is it another person's responsibility. So these are typical problems, like fairly general problems that you really want any sort of tool to help you with. So the solution at, again, a very high level is centralized task management, ideally with some multiple views depending on your needs as a team. And so the tool I'm going to demo here is Jira, and specifically I'm going to show you a Jira business project. So for that, I'm going to come over to one of my other browser tabs, and here we see Jira Cloud. This is, again, all the cloud products I'm going to be showcasing today. So I'm here in Jira, and this is, by the way, some of you might have been in Jira before or have a lot of expertise in Jira or a lot of experience. So you'll notice maybe very quickly here that the UI is different. That's because the Atlassian Cloud UI is starting to roll out a brand new setup where they've gone back to this left sidebar from those drop downs at the top of the UI. So this is where things are headed with the Atlassian Cloud, and so it's showing up on the demo site today. But here, what I want to get at is I want to get to one of our projects called the accounting project. I'm actually going to open this up, collapse that. There we go. So we come to this project, and this again is a business project within Jira. And I'll show you a software project. That's the two main flavors in Jira. So this is a business project. And you can see there's a lot of different visualizations available in this project. And at the start, there's a summary. This comes out of the box with business projects that give you status overviews, recent activity, just kind of a sense of what's been happening within the project with your issues or work items, I should say, within Jira over the last 7 days, and a few other little widgets here that reflect how you're doing as a team, what's your workload, things like that. And then we come into the board area. So this is a board that comes with a business project. A board in Jira this is more like a Kanban board that we'll see later in software projects, where you have your work items that are represented by cards, and the cards appear in these columns based on what's called a workflow status. So in Jira, you have things called work items, and those work items have to follow what's called a workflow that'll kind of move along to different statuses and eventually hopefully be completed. So this board reflects your work items and where they are, where they fall. Are they to do? Are they in progress? Eventually, you want to get to a done, one of the done statuses. So on the board here, we have these cards. You can click into these cards and see a lot more information about this work item. There's a lot of different fields available, and these can be very customized. You can create a lot of different custom fields and set this layout the way you want it to be. So, and you can move these along to different columns as needed. So a lot of flexibility here, but this ideally sets you up to go, what's our team working on? And then you can even filter by assignee. You notice that these icons show who from your team is assigned to that work. So again, Jira is really great at helping you know who's responsible for what items. So there's this view. There's also a list view. This was incorporated over the last year into these business projects, and they're now actually available in software projects to give those teams that are used to working in spreadsheets a similar view within Jira. So this is a grid, similar to like an Excel or Google sheet, and but you can see the different work item types. You can even expand these and see the custom hierarchy, or I should say, in this case, the out-of-the-box hierarchy within Jira, where you can have certain work items be parented by other work items. So you can see that work breakdown structure, and they've added that in to this list view. But you can see other things, and you can even edit your different fields in line here. So perhaps some of your teams are going to really like this option. There's also a calendar view. There we go. So again, calendar view will highlight the work items that are in your project, and they'll highlight those that have the start and due dates. These are kind of out of the box date fields. And so if those are filled in, then you can kind of see that, like, the time frame that it's going to take for some of these issues to be started and completed. So there's that visualization. There's also a timeline option. So you can say here again, similar, but a little different, where it allows those dates to be shown on more of a Gantt chart. And you can again see the work breakdown over here from what are called a Jira epic down to a task, down to a subtask. So you can see that out here, and you can see the start and end dates of these work items, and just for planning purposes. So a couple different options here. There's a lot of other things to potentially talk about in any of these Jira projects, but I'm going to leave it there. But hopefully you can get a sense that whether you're in when you're in Jira, you have Jira's again built all around with a focus on work management. And so you have your work items represented here with assignees, with different visualizations of where they're at in the workflow, different ways to edit them, to visualize them. And so yeah, a lot of different possibilities. We've seen business teams come over here and really find a lot of value in using these business projects, and it gets them out of spreadsheets. It gets them in the same system that a lot of like the rest of their companies in as well, and for for reporting, for sharing, for commenting, things like that. It just puts everyone on the same in the same tool for their system of work. So that's something again to consider. So let's go back to our overview here. And so we've covered task management. Next, we're going to talk about project management. So a little bit kind of going up a little bit higher from the task management. So project management, like who is this really for? Well, it's for your PMO teams. It could be HR teams, marketing teams, really any team who is managing projects, which is most types of team will have like larger bodies of work that they're trying to deliver that are typically like then broken down into those tasks or stories or whatever work items you call them. So project management, then what are the problems there? Well, when you're kind of going up a little higher, you with these larger bodies of work, well, you might have misalignment. You're often dealing with potentially more than one team that needs to help deliver and achieve those projects. So there might be delayed handoffs. There might be like just different, just all sorts of different factors involved in trying to deliver on the project. You often are trying to deal with like status reports and like what's happening with our project and what's the latest update on it. And then you might be getting into like people spending a lot of time, project managers doing a lot of manual work to try to find out what's happening versus potentially just having the tools have all that information real time, and you can display it real time in all sorts of different ways. So that's where we're kind of headed with the solution here, is to make work more visible and ideally to automate reporting more. So your PMs aren't spending so much time creating reports for meetings, and to even allow people to see asynchronously what's happening with a project. So the tools we're going to show here, again, are Jira, and also going to talk about Confluence and give you some insight into Confluence. So I'm going to go back into Jira to start. And for this one, I'm going to go into a different project called the Marketing Project Management Project. And yeah, I'll go ahead and collapse this. So this is it looks similar to a business project, but this is actually a software project. So Jira more and more is starting to kind of blend the features of business projects and software projects more and more. But this does have some more options here, some at the top that I can quickly see this is a software project, but again, very similar. There's summaries now. There's timelines that show in a little different way if that's set up around your board. But boards are really key in software projects. This is a really big part of visualization. And so this board, it looks a lot similar, but it's a little different than that business board. But the idea here is this is a project that's meant to help with your project management for the marketing team. So these cards represent what is called an epic issue or work item within Jira. So this is our marketing epics board. So each of these cards is an epic that represents a project that the marketing team's trying to achieve. So we have Project Alpha, Project Beta has been done, Project Epsilon. So we have these different projects out here. And when I open up one of these cards, then I can see more about this particularly this project Alpha. So we have different fields out here like background, business objectives, scope, assumptions. You can even see child issues. Again, there's this hierarchy, this work breakdown structure that you get with Jira. So I can see different tasks that make up this project that need to be done in order for this project to be completed. Milestones out here. We start to see some links to Confluence, which I'll show shortly. And then there's other fields out here you can put in, like user fields. There's goals. I'll touch on goals shortly. That's a newer feature coming out within the Atlassian Cloud. But we have date fields, priority fields, things like that we can customize these as much as we want to. So, but the idea here is that the source of truth for the project is here in Jira, and they can be managed with a workflow. You can see live up to date, like where is this at? Where are these projects at in the workflow? And I can see that very quickly here in Jira. But then I can also go over to Confluence and represent these projects in their own what are called pages. So let's shift over to Confluence now. And I'm in Confluence Cloud. This is all part of the same Atlassian organization. So this is very much tightly integrated with that Jira site that I was showing earlier. So here I'm in Confluence, and Confluence at a very high level is broken up into what are called spaces. They're similar to how Jira is broken up into projects. And a space is really, again, it's a place to put pages. It's basically an organizing structure for you to start to document for a specific purpose. So in this case, I'm showing you the marketing space. And this marketing space really aligns with that marketing project over in Jira. So this is the marketing team space, and I'll talk a little bit more about some of these pages later. But what I want to highlight here is that within this space, the marketing team has a page for each of their projects. And when I open up one of these, you can see all sorts of cool different visualizations that you can put on a page in Confluence. And so this is like, these are wiki pages, but they have so many options. So you can see here that on this project Alpha, there's a calendar view where different dates and different things for the marketing team are showing up here, or potentially their dates related to maybe different milestones or events to achieve this project Alpha. I can also see over here in the status area that this is pointing over to Jira. So that Jira work item has this issue key, and all this information right here is coming from Jira itself. So that issue, that URL for that was put in here, and now it's rendering with what's called a smart link within Confluence. So it's rendering information from Jira. And you can kind of go quickly back and forth between Confluence and Jira through clicking these links. Then there's also a table within this particular page, and this information, it could potentially be set up to come from Jira, but in this case, this information is actually living in Confluence. So these statuses are showing up here, and they can be updated by a user coming up here and editing this page. It doesn't look like I have edit rights in this page, so I can't show you that, but this could be updated here in real time in Confluence, and then anybody coming in here to see this page would see the latest update for these different statuses. So that's living in Confluence, but then some of these other things like target start, target end dates, this information here, all this information showing here is coming from the Jira work item. So it's pulling in different field values from that Jira work item and visualizing it here in Confluence. As I scroll down, I'll showing you basically some other ideas of how you can bring in Jira information. So those children work items under that project, that epic work item over in Jira are showing here. So I'm basically kind of filtering out and just showing you different views of some of the children issues here, like the current work taking place, the completed work, the milestones that are set up underneath that particular project in Jira. And then some other information, again, details that are coming in from Jira. And you can also put in attachments on the Confluence pages, lots of other cool things in Confluence that I'll show you in the our final example today. So there's a page out here for each of those projects that are also represented in Jira. And then there's a parent page, or like a summary page here called the project dashboard page. And this highlights some cool kind of deep dive stuff in Confluence where you can set up a summary page that pulls in information from the pages underneath it in a really cool kind of large view summary of the statuses for all of these different projects with, again, some of this information coming from Confluence, some of it coming from Jira, but ultimately, as they're being updated in real time, you can see those real-time updates here. There's even a plan that's coming over from Jira. That's a whole other thing. That's a cool feature of Jira that we're not going to get into today. But you can hopefully start to see a vision for how you don't have to just use Jira for project management. You can also represent projects and visualize status updates and reporting over here in Confluence. All right. So we've done 2 of the 5 examples. Gonna just really quick have a little commercial break here to talk some more about Valiantys. And let me see if I can get this showing here. Yep, so this is a little bit more about us. So again, I mentioned earlier, we're 100% dedicated to the Atlassian ecosystem. We're a 13-time Atlassian Partner of the Year. And so we'll see if we win any of those awards coming up at Atlassian Teams, that it's coming up next week in California. So, but we have received many different awards over the years. We work with 65 of the global Fortune 500 companies. And we have a full stack development center. So again, anything you need help with beyond just general, Atlassian administration or Atlassian training, licensing, things like that. We have, an amazing team of engineers that can help with integrations, that can help with front end portals, you name it, anything that you need done within the Atlassian ecosystem, we can definitely handle. So so that's a lot about us. And I think we have a little bit more. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so some of the services that we offer, our main thing is consulting. So working with clients, whether that mean migrating your Atlassian products to the cloud or setting up, helping implement Jira, Confluence, any of those Atlassian products, Jira Service Management. We also help with licensing as well for your Atlassian products. I touched on the integration and development piece that we have our custom dev teams that can help with. We also have managed services as well. If you just need somebody to help manage your Atlassian products, or just have like kind of a phone the friend ability with an expert Atlassian certified expert available, we have that as well. And we do a lot of training as well. We have these free webinars. We also do public boot camps and private boot camps. But basically anything that's in the Atlassian ecosystem, we can do training on. So that's a little bit about us. So let's move on to our third example, which is around hiring and onboarding. So who might be affected by this? Well, certainly HR teams, but really it's any type of team who is onboarding. And so I'm going to cover this one particular use case, this very specific use case of a client we worked with. It was an insurance company. And this team had unique processes at scale. They were hiring people for their tier 1 agent roles and also their tier 2 agent roles. So taking, those agents that can help take calls or just, process claims, things like that. So they had a lot of onboarding and just dealing with thousands and thousands of people kind of coming through and needing to be enabled and be set up for success. So so they had a lot of processes that were changing over time. They had unclear next steps and where is this, and even visualization around where is this person at in the onboarding process. They also had a lot of unique needs with automation and compliance needs within the insurance industry, and also some special setup integrations with other systems like an HIRS and IT systems. Things like that. You can imagine just onboarding hundreds, if not thousands of people each year and getting them the right tool sets and the technology needed to do their job. So yeah, a lot involved in this whole onboarding process. So the solution, again, at a very high level, were some very customized workflows within Jira that involved data validation, that involved automations and integrations with for downstream task creation, for reaching out to other systems, and then they also needed again those guardrails to make sure they were meeting compliance. So the tools that we ended up using with them were Jira. You could also potentially use Jira Service Management, but for this demo, I'm going to highlight what we did with Jira software. So let's go back into our Jira Cloud instance. And I'm going to go to another project called the onboarding project. Right, so here is one of our boards. Actually, I'm going to try to set this up a little bit better here. There we go. Cool. All right, so here is going to be our tier 1 onboarding board. So again, this is a software project. We have a board out here, one Kanban board focused on tier 1, one Kanban board focused on the tier 2 onboarding. So we're going to start with the tier 1. So this was the onboarding for those tier 1 agents. So each of these cards or work items represents a person who's being onboarded as a tier 1 agent. And when I click into one of these cards, this brings in, again, some more information about who those people are, who they're reporting to. This is kind of a very simplified version of this, and there could be a lot of other fields about this person. But what I really want to highlight here in this example is the customized workflow. So I can see the status up here where this person is in the onboarding process. And I want to highlight this workflow. So I'm gonna click this view workflow. And so this is, the visualization of the workflow here within Jira. And just at a very high level, workflows, every work item has to have a workflow in Jira. And the workflow, again, is the life cycle, the steps that a work item needs to go through to be completed. So here you see the start, and then you see these green statuses here. That's one of your end states or statuses. And so a workflow is made up of these lozenges, these pills here. These are called statuses. And then the lines between them are called transitions. So you're ultimately moving from one status to another. You have a lot of different forks in the road, if you will, and different paths to take. So one user may not go exactly one by one through here. But the idea with these workflows is not just to show where a person is at, that's super important, but these transitions allow all sorts of options. They allow validations or those guardrails where a user has to tick certain boxes or have completed certain things in order for them to go from one status to another one. Excuse me. So there's that. There's also automation that's available that allows you to go from one, like if you go from one status to another, it can trigger downstream work creation or trigger like some sort of automation to another outside system. There's all sorts of options available within these workflows. But you can see, again, the happy path for users to go from recruited to scheduled to training to peer mentoring to good to go. But maybe they withdraw. Maybe there's a no-show. Maybe just something's not working out and they're terminated. And there's even a request terminated option that could potentially involve all sorts of automations that would reach out to Active Directories and HIRS systems and all sorts of things. So all that, there's all sorts of opportunities to build in automation and guardrails in these workflows. And then, some of these things out here can be represented by, again, workflows changes out here. I think, automations. There's all sorts of cool stuff that you can do within Jira in the cloud. So that's that onboarding process for the tier 1 agents. And then there is a tier 2 board with a whole new set of onboarding activities for those tier 2 agents that need a little bit more expertise, more training. So again, similar setup where each of these work items represents a person being onboarded. And when I click in, I can see information about them. And then let's have a look at that tier 2 workflow. And hopefully you can tell very quickly this is a different workflow. It has more statuses. Again, because those tier two people have to be, there's more enablement needed. This involves testing, certification, advanced training, things like that. And there's the potential for users to skip over some of the testing. Maybe they already had certification, and so they skip over to certified, and maybe they skip over to peer mentoring because they've already done advanced training. So these workflows, again, they can be very, very customized with exactly the paths you need to take that you want to be able to allow for a user to go through. In this case, these work items or these people being onboarded. So lots of possibilities here. But again, the idea is that you're just allowing for all sorts of different use cases for your onboarding process. And again, to allow validation within these workflow transitions, and to also allow automation to take place for downstream or for other system integrations. So that can all be achieved here within Jira. So let me close this out and go back to our webinar site. And we're going now to our 4th out of 5. Doing okay here on time. Hopefully you're all hanging with me on these. So we have 2 more use cases. The final 2 are service desks, and then we'll talk about centralized knowledge. So service desks, who is this for? Well, it could be HR. Typically, you think about IT for your service desks, your computers, your access to different systems. But if we think non-IT, with thinking about teams like HR, marketing, facilities, legal, it's really any type of team that is either handling requests from internal customers, internal within your organization, or external. So here within Valiantys, just as an example, is when we're setting up and trying to work through different contracts, we have a legal department, and so that legal department has their own service desk. To basically, we submit requests to them, and it allows them to kind of start to manage them and to assign them and to prioritize them, things like that. So that's just, again, one example, but I'll show you later. We're going to talk about like a potential HR service desk. So really any team that's out there handling different requests. And the problems that all these different teams have is there's no clear prioritization, right? Like, how am I supposed to know what should I work on next? Or potentially there's just multiple channel intake. Your people might send emails to people on your team, or you have conversations in the hallway, or messages in your Slack or MS Teams, like, hey, can you help me with this? But it's like, where can that actually go to be tracked and to be processed, and so that everybody has visibility, not only you, but your supervisor, whoever is like helping to oversee your team and all the work that they're doing. So there's lots of potential problems with this. I mean, even your Jira admins, we talk a lot about governance with teams, and like, how's your Jira, like when people have support needs or they want a new app or a new product, like how's your Jira admin team supposed to, hear about those requests? So this could apply to so many different types of teams. And the solution, again, at a very high level, is a service desk with a clear intake form, with prioritized queues for that work coming in, with automatic updates that can tell the requester who submitted the service desk tickets, like what's happening, what's the status, and to allow some back and forth that can be audited, that can be, the history can be kept nicely organized within these tickets. And even potentially some self-help articles to help even deflect the need for a request to be submitted. Oh my goodness, my battery is running low. Bear with me on this one. Just make sure I've got all this set up here. Okay, so see if we can get through this webinar on this with this power. Okay, so we're going to go back in to Jira, and this time we're going to look at our service desk. And this is going to really get into Jira Service Management. Okay, so with Jira Service Management, you get this sort of view. You get a customer portal that, again, could be for internal teams. It could be for external teams. So here we have this demo site with the Valiantys Help Center. And so users could come out here and they could start to type in information about what they need help with. And what's really one great feature about Jira Service Management is it has an integration with Confluence. So you can put a lot of help articles over in Confluence, and then Jira Service Management can be directed to those spaces where those help articles are, and they can be then leveraged to give suggestions to the users of the portal for these sort of things. So it's trying to help out with different portals to use, maybe some pages that could help deflect, again, to give some FAQs or whatever a user might need help with. So there is that knowledge management from Confluence. But let's say a user really needs to submit something. They come out here and they can see different service desks. Each of these service desks represents a different project within Jira Service Management. So you can have as many as you want. In this case, we have well, it looks like we've got 7 out here in this instance. But I want to focus on the HR service desk. So when I click into this, I come into the HR service desk, and this shows me different ways that the service desk can help. And these are all called request types. And you can customize this and set this up however you want with different icons. And each of these request types can be set up uniquely with their own form. With lots of different inputs, you can decide which fields users need to fill out here, what type of fields those are. There's lots of really, really cool options. This is highlighting a lot of them on this page. But you have drop-down, text, check boxes, dialog boxes, all sorts of different possibilities here. But each of these is a different request intake form that is meant to then send some information to that team. So what I want to do here, I actually want to look up a more basic one called Questions for HR, just to show you what this looks like. So I need some onboarding help. So as I type in a summary for this, Jira Service Management is trying to suggest articles from Confluence that might help me out. But in this case, this isn't helping me out. So I'm just going to put in, again, this is a really basic form, need some help. And I'm going to send this. And what this does is it opens up, so asking for some onboarding help. So this is what it looks like for me as a customer, whether I'm an external or an internal customer. So it shows up here. And then what I can do is if I want to keep talking to the HR team, I can comment back and forth here in this activity area. I can also see the latest status update. I can even potentially add or share this with other people from my team. So that's what it looks like from the customer's point of view. And then I'll click on this work item ID, and this now brings me back into Jira Service Management, like as one of the agents, if you will, or one of the people from the team handling these different requests. So these come in and they look a little bit different than what I showed earlier with business projects or software projects. But they come in ultimately with information from the portal, all those fields that a customer would fill out would show up here. Some of those might turn into other fields out here within the service desk ticket. But there's all sorts of cool automations available within Jira Service Management. But I just want to highlight here that when the agent gets it, they can communicate back and forth or even internally via comments. So they can click down here and add an internal comment, or they could potentially add a comment back to the customer and talk and communicate with the customer, and whatever updates they make to the workflow can be done over here. Looks like I'm missing some agent permissions over here, but the idea again is that there could be a queue set up for different types of options that come in. So maybe certain people on your team would handle certain type of requests, where other team members might handle other type of requests. So you can do all sorts of things with setting up unique queues and then even automating like the assignment of those work items out here. So a lot of cool options, But hopefully you can get the sense that, man, if you have a portal like this, then you can really point everybody, all the customers, to that portal for intake. And then you can prioritize that. You can keep track of it as your team. And then it just helps with potentially all the chaos of all the different requests and the ways they're coming in currently. Uh, so yes, so certainly can use those for these service desks for all sorts of different types of teams. Okay, so I think we've covered everything there. And now we are to our final use case, our final example for centralized knowledge. So this is, who's this for? Well, it's for, again, everyone, every type of team, any type of industry you're in, no matter what, your teams will have knowledge, whether it's for themselves or things they want to share with the outside world or other parts of the company. Your team, you have your processes, you just have your, just all the things that you do, it's living either in somebody's brain or you're getting it out of people's brains into wikis, into pages, documentation, which again is ideal. I know it's hard sometimes to keep up to date with all those things, but it really helps everybody, know what's happening. And then the problems as we see here is where do I find this information, right? Like companies like even Valiantys, we have so much knowledge, right? So much experience. But where can it live in order for people to find it easily or to be searchable easily? Especially if companies often have multiple tools where they're creating documentation, creating artifacts. It gets really hard to find out where should I go, and then is that information even up to date? How can I tell? So those are some of the bigger high level problems we see with companies, even including ourselves. And then solutions at a high level is a centralized, organized portal for knowledge. And then what I'll highlight here is Confluence. How could Confluence be used for that? So I'm going to jump back into our Confluence site. And again, I'm still here in this marketing team space. Let's go up even higher here to like the home page for marketing. And so I can see kind of different ways you can set up a home page, showing like the whole page tree, all the different pages available within a space, recently updated files like this. But the idea here is that the marketing team has this for themselves, but it also could be permission so that other people in the company can come out here and they can find out more information about marketing or the projects that marketing's working on, things like that. So in this case, marketing team has their home page where it talks about who they are, what's their motto, their latest updates, how can people reach out to them, how can they find them, and you can start to see that this is this portal. It's like it's one page, but it's pointing to lots of other pages out on the internet, or either within Confluence or with other tools or just general URLs for the internet. So it's this idea that Confluence is like a signpost. It's pointing people in the right direction of where to go for information. Then there's more things about who's on the team, what's the team calendar, again, their updates, when are they on vacation, when there's some special events happening, like a campaign launch, things like that. And then lots of frequently used resources. So brochures, logos, swag, all these sorts of things. Like maybe the rest of the company needs to go here to find out, like, where can I get a brochure? Where can I get a logo for our company or a background for my Zoom calls or MS Team calls, things like that. And maybe this information, again, it doesn't have to live in Confluence. As I hover over these, it looks like these are all pointing to Google Drive. So, but at least I can go here, I can start here, and this will tell me where to go. So this is one example of Confluence, and you have this centralized knowledge. And then for the team, again, they can have this home page. We've already talked about all the project pages uh, to highlight status updates. But then there's other type of pages and cool integrations here. So one of them is this, like the new product plan. So imagine the marketing team's working on a new plan, and they also happen to be using Miro. And so notice here, you can put a Miro link to a Miro board, and it renders inline in a Confluence page. So I can quickly come here. If I'm a user in Miro, I can start to work over here. Looks like I am set up here. And so I don't necessarily have to context switch or tool switch. I can just work on things in line within Confluence, which is really handy. Or we can as a team use this for our meetings. And but the idea here is that there's a lot of what are called smart links available within Confluence. Again, not just for Atlassian products, but for a lot of other cloud products. Another example of integrations is on this trade show page. So this is highlighting a Trello board. So the marketing team clearly is also using Trello, and they're using Trello to get ready for a trade show coming up. So here's a little taste of Trello. Actually, let me get through this. This is showing all sorts of interesting stuff here. But Trello is these boards, again, similar to business project boards or software projects in Jira, but it gives these different columns with different statuses, and then each of these work items or to-dos show up as cards. And so you can put a lot of information on those, and you can move them from back and forth. So I don't have to go to Trello. I can actually see the board here and work with the board over here. So again, just some insights into some possibilities within Confluence. There's also, again, smart linking over to Google. If your company is a Google shop, you can put in Google Sheets, Google Doc links in here and get to those and see those in line in Confluence. What else do we have in Confluence? Confluence keeps, the Confluence Cloud keeps extending with new features, new types of pages. Here's a database page that they're introducing in the Confluence. They also have brought in boards. Again, maybe not terribly unlike Miro or other products out there like that, but they're putting these within Confluence themselves that allow some really cool integration with Jira for other visualizations. And I already talked about calendars. So, but hopefully you get a sense that Confluence, it could be a really great place for your teams to use for their own wikis, but also maybe wikis that they'll share with other customers. We have some of our trainings on Confluence, and we have opened that up to the public, and we use those for boot camps, things like that. And obviously, these could be wikis for other people within your companies to see and get information about. So that's centralized knowledge. And now, so we've covered, those task management, project management, onboarding, service desks, and centralized knowledge. So now we have a few more minutes here for some questions that I'd love to help you with. So if you want to put any, let me just double check this. If you have any questions, you can put those in the Q&A part of this Zoom call. And while I'm looking at these, I'm also just going to scroll down to some updates here. If you want to reach out to me outside of this webinar, you can scan this QR code, and that'll take you to LinkedIn and reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you can email me at jason.kidner@valiantys.com. You can also see a lot of the other Valiantys webinars and events, training events out here, listed here. So a number of boot camps coming up. And we also have webinars on Thursdays, usually at 11 a.m., some at 1 p.m. on Thursdays as well. And we have a YouTube channel. I think Brianna's probably posted this into the chat as well. A lot of great videos out on YouTube. All right, so one question's come up. Any immediate thoughts on Atlassian Focus and how that aligns into the overall Atlassian portfolio? Wow. Okay, so that's a big question. A little bit outside the scope of this Jira for all teams, but I will say, there's going to be a lot of talk probably at Atlassian Teams next week about Focus and Jira Align. You do need to have Jira Align licenses to use Focus, and I don't even think it shows up. Let's go back to our Atlassian view here. Yeah, Focus hasn't even shown up here. I'm sure it'll show up in Teams and in a lot of the Atlassian marketing going forward, but Focus is a new product that's being gradually rolled out. It's very much connected. You need Jira Align licenses to use it, but it's a product that's in the Atlassian Cloud. And so okay, yeah, so I'll just kind of leave it at that. But it's basically set up like at a real high level to help manage like larger bodies of work, like your strategies and how you're setting up your high level strategies and leveraging either Jira Align work items or even potentially Jira work items. And so I wish I could have shown a little bit more about Atlassian goals and projects. That's a new thing that's rolling out too in the Atlassian Cloud. That's not Focus, but it's like, let's call it Focus Light, that allows you to do projects and do some goals and OKRs within Atlassian Cloud. So that's starting to roll out. I wasn't able to show it today, but just heads up on future webinars around that. So yeah, great question. Just one final question. Somebody was asking like if you have training extent like on all of these products that I showed, and the answer is yes. We do have a lot of training opportunities. Some of it's paid, some of it's free. Again, there's a lot of webinars we offer at no cost. We record those webinars. Let me get down to the bottom page. Bear with me here. So we have a lot of opportunities for yeah, a lot of things out on YouTube. We have webinars that are free, but then we do get into some boot camps around Atlassian tools. We also do boot camps for Angular, Forge, development, things like that. Those are paid, and some of them are 1 day, some of them are up to 3 days. But again, happy to talk with you about that. We also, often give out discount codes and things like that for training. But yeah, anything Atlassian related, we can do training on. So cool. Well, thank you for bearing with that power outage and for attending today. I hope you got a lot of value out of this, and look forward to hearing from you. Or yeah, I wish you success with your journey with Atlassian. Thanks, everyone.